Okay, this is the programming exercise to do with lists and for loops. So what we need is to be able to write a program, and you've got a choice of 4, well you need to do 2 out of 4. One is to write a simple multiplication times table program, so you can ask the user for which times table, print out the times table going 1 times whatever is the answer, printing it out neatly and as tightly as you can, so that you get a proper times table out, not just a list of numbers. On the right is actually a flow diagram for that as well, that shows what's happening. Try and read what the flow diagram does if you're doing that task. How does it relate to what the program needs to do? The second one is a task where you need to keep a list of the days of the month, with January being number 1. And when a user is asked for a number or which month they want, print out the proper name. The point here is it is a lot better to use lists than if statements because they're a lot more condensed, and they're also more reliable because they hang about permanently in memory. If you have to convert a number to a month in many different places, it's a lot easier to use a list than a series of if statements. The third one is to do a 10 by 10 grid, which is the last piece I'll show you. That's basically 2 for loops. And finally, this is a special version of the lists one to try and create a variable voting pattern. So you could create a list which contains a list of superheroes. People say which number they would like to vote for, and you need another list to track how many people have voted for which thing. So they're voting on Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. If you number them 0 to 2, I'll accept 0 in this case. If someone says I'm voting for 0, you need to increase the counter for number 0. That is a grade A piece of work. Okay. Right, quick programs then to do similar things, and I'll try and point out some key points along the way. First of all, comments. Make sure all your programs are commented to what the program does. So this is printing a column of stars. And to print out the star, there's one problem with the print a column of stars. Okay? And what we do is, do I need to set anything up? No. We need a loop to make it do the same command repeated times. So print star in range, and I want 10 stars. At the end of a for loop, remember for can do groups of commands. So to tell Python they are potentially groups of commands, you put a colon on the end. If you've got groups of commands, it should normally indent for you. If it doesn't, make sure that the commands are indented. That's why you've got to be careful with commands having spaces before them properly. So let's print out the star. So we'll print a single star to start with. And then if I had something to print out at the end of the for loop, not inside it, I can print end. So I'm going to print out a series of lines to separate the tasks out. So I can run this program. Make sure it's saved to something appropriate, but with REPL, leave it as main for the moment. So there we are, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's 10 numbers. But remember with for, if I print out the star number afterwards, it does something a little weird. I now have 0 to 9. That is 10 stars, but it starts at number 0. So the start number is the first value if you've got 2 variables. I want to start at number 1, and I want to stop when it gets to 11. I want it to do number 10, but when it sees 11 it goes stop. So it runs, and now I've got numbers 1 to 10 with a star next to it, and a line underneath. The main reason for the line underneath is so I can do another program in the same video, you can see the whole lot together. So the second one is I'm going to do days of the week. First part is I'm going to ask the user for a day number. Which number day do you want? Okay, I get that value in, and I'll just print out what the day is first. So let's run it. You get this start bit. Which day number do I want? I want number 3. Right, it's printed out 3. Now I could do a series of if statements and say, if 3, do this number, if 4, do this. But the lists allows me to do days, or weekdays, even. And I can do a list, and lists are always defined. You know you're dealing with lists when you see a square bracket. So my day number, first one is Monday, second one is Tuesday, next one is Wednesday, Thursday, oops, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I've got something, I've got double quotes a bit further back. Because this isn't colouring right, I realised there was a problem back here, and there's 2 quotes next to each other. So now we've got those, and I want to print out, not the day number, I want to print out the weekday. So those weekdays, and then to access a number within that list, it goes inside the square bracket. So here we said weekdays, and here's a list of things. Now it's saying in this list, which number do I want to go to? Well, I want to go to day number day. Now I am intentionally making this happen. When I run it, which day number do I want? I want number 3. Press enter, and I'm getting an error. Pay attention to errors carefully. It says type error. List indices must be an int, so it's expecting an int somewhere, but not a string, and it's been given a string. It tells you it's in line number 12, so I'll go and look at line number 12. Well, I'm telling it to print out weekdays. Well, that's from the list, and there it mentions lists, so that seems okay. The index is the number inside a bracket, and it says that must be an integer. I thought I typed in an integer, and then I remember inputs only ever give strings. So to fix it, I need to change the day number into an integer. So I take that day and do int day. And what I can now do is make sure I'm also indexing on that number. And we say run. Let it refreshes properly. Come on. So run. Which day number do I want? I want day number 3, and it says Thursday. That's still a problem. Users aren't used to this, because this was number 1, 2, 3, 4. Ah, yes, just like with the for loop above, this numbering begins 0, 1, 2, 3. So in any program, you probably will have to sort that out for a user as well. The last program we're going to look at, I'm going to put in between, and that's trying to create a star pattern. And to do a star pattern, we're going to do 2 for loops, one of which builds up a text of a line to be put out. And I was going to do it as a flag, but I'm now going to do it as a grid of numbers, all going 0 to 9, 0 to 9, 0 to 9. So this is grid of numbers. So when I come into my program, to do a grid, I've got 2 directions. I've got X and Y. Well, Y comes down, and that's what I'm going to print in each line. So let's just do the 4Y in range, and it doesn't matter if it's 0 to 9 or not, so we're going to do 10 numbers. And this, for each line, I want to print out something. So let's just print the Y to start with. And just like we saw before, we should get, oh sorry, I'll just put in a separated program between the programs again. Okay, so when we run it, that's my first program. My second program is just the numbers 0 to 9. That worked fine. Then the next part is this bit about what day of the week do I want? Monday. So within this, I now want to print out the digits from 0 to 9 going across. So I could do a for loop. 4x in range 10. What I want to print out each time is the value of x.
Now notice, if I want to do that inside the for loop, it needs to indent again. If I'd left it out here, we'd have got an error because it didn't know how to, this second for loop wouldn't actually have anything in it to do. So we run it and we get an error because it doesn't, there's nothing happening inside this for loop. I indent it properly and run it. And now I've got all the numbers coming out fine, but not the right way round. So what I need to do is I need to create something that's going to build up the list of numbers to go across. So to print the list of numbers going across, let's build a line of text. So we're going to take something called a line of text, and we're going to add to it the value x, and run it. This is now saying there's a problem with my program. Variable line has not been seen before. I can't add something to something I've never done anything before. So I put the line, I need to create an empty line. So to create an empty string. I want it to be a new string each time we come around the loop. At the end I'll show, actually I'll show you first. I'll put it first up here, and we run it. I still get an error. Now it's not to do with that line this time. This time it's saying it cannot concatenate a string and an int. It's the same problem we got down here, but the other way around. Here we had a string trying to be used as an integer. Now we've got an integer that we want to add onto a string. And to add it to a string, it must be a string. So use the function string to change my line into the value string. And now we move now into the next program. This hasn't printed anything out. Oh, I didn't tell it to print anything. So let's print out my line. And run it again. And I seem to have something sort of right. It's printing out and adding to the string, but it seems to be just keep adding more and more and more onto the string. I want it to reset for each line. So if I want it to reset for each line, reset the value, get rid of the value from there, and each time we start a new line, create a new line. So first time in this is blank and goes through. At the end of that, it's got a whole row of numbers. I don't want that whole row of numbers. I want it to come back round with a clean set. So let's run it again. Oh, we're not at the bottom, that's one. Now we're getting closer, but obviously I want that version of the line printing out, not the previous ones. The reason being, I've got this print line inside the X that each time it does something to the line, it prints it out again. I don't want that. But this line is something called a buffer. It allows me to build something up, then print it out later. So this is now what's called a buffer, or a line buffer. And on the inner loop, I add things onto that line, and then when that loop is finished, that's when I want to print it out. I can stop and rerun my program. And there we are. We've now got the stars in a column, numbers 1 to 10. We've got a grid of numbers, and if you're using this here, I don't mind in your multiplication grid if it goes slightly disjointed. And I want to print out number 6. With that one, I would like to see this coming out properly as being that being day 7 and that being day 1. Okay?